Now we're going to take you through what our initial assessment looks like and what's consistent in it. And the first thing we want to go over is this rapport building. We want to know who you are, what your past season looked like, what are your goals. So we do a little segment of short-term and long-term goals, and that's something that we find that a lot of athletes don't really think about. You know, they have the initial overarching goal like, oh, I want to play pro, I want to play college, I want to throw 90, but there's also short-term goals that we can measure, that we can track, that is specific, that's SMART goals, and that are actionable and realistic. And those are all things that we want to go over. Put it on paper. And then outside of that, I think we also find that there's a lot of value in seeing strengths and weaknesses. Like as an athlete, when you're looking at your peers, what are your strengths? What are things that you do exceptionally well? And then what are also things that your peers may do better than you? And that's completely fine to have that objective feedback. And then going into injury history, what does the past look like? Did you have Little League elbow, Little League shoulder? Tell me about that a little bit. How long were you shut down for? What did you do? Did you do PT? Did you not do PT? And then even going to your past season workload, what did your spring look like? What teams did you play for? What did your summer look like? Did you play fall ball? Did you not play fall ball? Did you pitch in fall ball? All these things are really important and vital to our plan going forward so that we can know everything possibly about you. So also multiple sports, that's really important as well, right? So if you're a quarterback, that's important, right? So we just want to know what sport you're playing, how can we know the most information about you, and how can we help you move forward. Logan's going to talk about more so with the posture screening and the rest of the screening process that we have.
Yeah, so as Gary said, that's what we first do when the athletes and the parents come in and try to build that rapport. From there, we'll actually get out on the floor and we'll start with a initial posture screen. And essentially what we're trying to do there is look for any possible red flags. We're going to look for how the feet move, how the body aligns to the lower half, how the body aligns to the upper half. We're going to check out where the scapula are, the shoulder blades. We're going to check out where the spine is, see if there's any asymmetries through there. We're dealing with a lot of rotational athletes here, obviously with baseball and softball players. So asymmetries can happen, but sometimes not all asymmetries are bad. Sometimes they can actually be a benefit. So getting an educated eye on that is going to be really important as well. We continue to work up the chain. We'll look at cervical rotation, everything through there, and how important the neck is and how it can everything kind of working proximally to distally, right, in to out, and we want to start at that spine and kind of see how everything works out from there. After that process, we're going to get some clues from that right off the bat. From there, we're going to head onto the table. Okay, so we'll have some videos later showing you kind of how we get through this whole process, but again, we're looking for asymmetries, we're looking for flexibility, mobility, stability. Any asymmetries from left to right is going to be really important to see from there. Again, as we said, a lot of guys are righty-righty or lefty-lefty. Some guys are switch, but a lot of times we're just rotating in one direction. That's why it's so important to continue to work both ways with all these things. But essentially on the table, we're going to be looking at shoulder mobility, T-spine mobility, hip mobility, ankle mobility, just how you function, right? How the muscles are working versus how the joints are working. Very often we see, especially younger kids who are very loose through the joints but very tight through the muscles, and we'll talk about why that's a common issue, but a lot of times it's just lack of stability through the joint, so they got to find stability somewhere else, and usually that's why the muscle's locking up through there. It can also play into it with how much you've grown recently too, right? When kids are going through growth spurts, bones grow faster than muscles can adapt, right? So they end up getting very, very tight, right? You have all these new long levers and everything, and it becomes really challenging to self-organize. So being able to see how they do that is important. And that moves us right into the next phase, which is going to be a movement screen, right? And it's a relatively basic movement screen. It's going to involve a squat, it's going to be a walking lunge, it's going to be a push-up, and it's going to be a split stance with reach, right? And these sound like very simple positions, and they are, but we put you in more challenging positions to see how you compensate through there. And again, as we lead into these things, it gives us kind of those breadcrumbs on what we're going to be looking for from the posture screen into the table work, into the movement screen. From there, it gives us now a pretty good idea of how you are as an athlete, as well as with the information that you gave us looking inwardly on it. From there, we go to start to take our baseline tests. And baseline tests are a little bit more like performance tests through there. And they're nothing strenuous, there's nothing crazy. It will begin with grip strength, which is obviously incredibly important for staying healthy, right? Especially around the arm, right? Around that elbow joint. And most of these tests too are a lot about competing. Yes, it's about competing against other athletes, right? It's fun to do that, but a lot of it is about competing against yourself. We use these as readiness tests too. The next one is going to be vertical jump, so just simple 2-foot vertical jump. We're going to do a normal vertical jump, counter movement jump. We're also going to do a non-counter movement jump, right? We're going to see how effectively you can use the stretch shortening cycle. From there, we're going to do some jumps for distance. We're going to do a lateral jump, okay? In that frontal plane, we're also going to do a broad jump, just normal broad jump, 2-foot jump, 2-foot landing. From there, we're going to do some actual rotational movements. So we're going to do a med ball shot put, right? Which would be like a knee-to-knee shot put through there. We're going to force velocity profile you through there, doing a couple throws for the 8, the 6, the 4, the 2. We're going to see where you perform best. This gives us a better idea of how to program for you as far as weighted balls or strength training, right? Kind of seeing where you profile through there. And then the last thing is going to be the arm care app. And that's basically just going to tell us how much force you can put through internal rotation, external rotation, and a scaption plane, and see if there's any serious red flags through there to see where we need to program for you individually as well.
That was money.
Nice job, man.
That was sick.